Today we're going to be talking about CER conclusions. And so what in the world is a CER conclusion? Well, before we answer that question, we're going to be starting with a little bit of a guessing game for you. Take a look at this picture and decide how many beads you think are in the box. If you are following along with this video, you may want to pause it and study the picture for a little bit before moving on. So I'll give you a moment to do that. All right, so hopefully you paused the video. So by looking at the rest of this picture, you are going to try to guess how many beads are in the box. Now, the picture here suggests that there are 5 beads, perhaps 5 blue beads in this box. But we have to ask ourselves, is that really the correct answer? And the only one way to find out is to open up the box, which we're not able to do in this situation. But there are several ways you can reach varying conclusions by looking at the pattern of the beads and how far apart they are and how big the box is. So we want to look at how we draw conclusions and how we state the conclusions that we draw in science class. So you're going to want to have your notebook out so that you can take some notes on this. And you should be using the guided notes page that came along with this as we go through. So let's take a look at this. This is the claim, evidence, and reasoning type of conclusion writing. So the claim is a one-sentence answer to the question that's being investigated, and it states what you are concluding. So a single sentence is plenty for this. So let's look at a situation that might happen to someone who's a dog owner. An example of a claim that might happen to a poor dog owner is that my dog ran away. Single sentence. It is the conclusion based on some evidence that we'll see in just a moment. So the claim, again, one sentence answer to the question being investigated. If you find yourself writing more than one sentence, it might be because you're accidentally putting the next section in there. This is the evidence section, the E of CER. This is how we know the things we know. It is the scientific data that you collect during an activity. It needs to be specific, and it needs to come from the data you collected. It's often in the form of an observation. For example, the evidence supporting the claim from the previous slide about the dog being missing is that there is a loose board and a hole under the fence, and the dog's chain is broken. Those would be very obvious pieces of evidence that the dog is no longer in the yard. So lastly, we're looking at the reasoning section. Why does that evidence support our claim? As you can see, it ties together the claim and the evidence by making logical connections. It provides justification and explains why the evidence is important. It often uses scientific principles or often just universal principles, as we'll talk about with the reasoning section about our dog. The example here is my dog is not on the chain where I left him, and the hole is large enough for him to have gone under. So those would be things that tie the evidence back to the claim. The evidence that the dog there's a hole, that means the dog probably went through the hole. There's a chain that's broken, that probably means the dog broke the chain. So we're connecting that evidence to the claim. So now you're going to try this. Based on some photographs that your teachers have provided, you're going to try to draw some conclusions about your teacher. So here's a picture of some of Miss Salisbury's objects that she has at home, and these tell a bit of a story about her as a person. So if you have her, you're going to want to look at these objects. What do they say about her? Why would she have them? State the evidence. In other words, what specific objects in this picture relate to the claim that you're making? And what are some reasons why that evidence supports your claim? So here's an example. So Miss Fish, now Miss Salisbury, likes to bake. She had measuring cups and a cupcake pan. Reasoning, well, measuring cups and cupcake pans are used to make cupcakes and muffins, and this is the type of food that is baked in the oven. So this is a statement that uses a universal principle that bakers use cupcake pans and measuring cups, and it connects that those are in the picture back to the idea that she likes to do some baking. So So if you have Mr. Snipes, you're going to want to look at this picture. And if you have Miss Brinton, you're going to want to look at this picture. So you're going to want to write for Miss Salisbury in page 2 of your notebook, write 3 CERs based on what you see here. If you have Mr. Snipes or Miss Brinton, you're going to want to go back to the Schoology page, and you're going to want to open up the part titled Notes CER Teachers Objects. And you're going to see a CER form that looks like this, where you'll make a claim based on what you see in these photos. And then once you're done, load that into your Notability. And then once you're done with that, we'll have you submit it in an assignment. All right, if you have any questions about that, of course, you can message your teacher through Schoology.